What's up everyone, it's Lovenji here, and today we're going to be working on Mission 15, Incarcerated. If you haven't figured it out now, every 5 missions we get presented with a gimmick mission. And this is the third gimmick mission that we're now going to have to deal with. It's probably the hardest one I've ever had to deal with in terms of gimmick missions. It's really quite difficult, and you'll see why when we get into the video, because it affects my particular style of gameplay, but I won't spoil it. Let's get this underway. Okay, so we have Mission 15, Incarcerated, and those of you with particularly good English skills will probably figure out that this involves some kind of jail. And a typo in the mission text. The mission text say the Dakini have us trapped, but it's actually the Chumara, if you remember your tribe names. So, we play this mission without the shaman. I hate playing without the shaman, as I do almost everything with the shaman. So this is a very interesting challenge. It provides you with a very small tribe, and as you can see in the top right, a very, very small time limit. We've got to break this base. Very specifically, it's not enough to just break the base, but you've actually got to destroy that prison that the shaman is currently wandering around in. That prison is functioning as a building, and so people can attack it. And that's going to be our first goal. You can't actually cast spells from within that prison. I tried it once before. I tried to cheat all spells to see if my shaman, if she had the mana available, could she volcano herself out of there? No, she cannot. It actually blocks all spell casting while you're in there. And as you saw, right-clicking the shaman just takes you to the sad prison. Very, very, very upsetting. So we're going to be building my least favourite boat. And this is the only time the boat's really necessary, and the reason we're using the boat is because it holds 5 people. We're sending a significant army, because as you saw, the prison isn't exactly lightly guarded. One of the missions in Undiscovered Worlds actually has you and the enemy shaman both in prisons, and it's a very interesting concept because both tribes are without the shaman, and therefore both tribes are trying to free their shaman. I thought it's probably one of my favourite missions in the expansion. So the strategy here is really simple. We're going to train 25 fighting followers. The breakdown that I use is 10 warriors, 10 fire warriors, and 5 preachers. Preachers do a lot of work by themselves so long as they're protected by other preachers or just by the other followers. So you often, when you're building your army, do not need that many preachers. So I found that 5 is good enough that I've got a couple of preachers to stop enemy preachers whilst being able to disable part of their army. The good thing about the preacher from an RTS perspective is even if you don't get the convert, the time that the enemy warriors are sitting down and having a little listen to what you have to say is time they're not hacking your army to bits. And that, in and of itself, is a significant advantage when you're playing a numbers game. I fight with a boat once more. I think I don't need to reiterate that I hate boats, but I really, really hate boats. This is just me spam clicking as I argue with the boat for not just being able to land on what is clearly a piece of land. If you look at an enemy tribe whenever they build boats, they're all really nice and neatly stacked together. I can't do that. I physically cannot make that happen. Boats refuse to allow me to make that happen. So you can't wait for followers to be produced. You have to start taking followers out of the hut if you want to build this army. And you've got to do so relatively quickly, because as you can see, we've already ticked down to 4 minutes. And this isn't including any of the actual attacking time that we've got to do. So I'm actually, even though I've done this mission probably hundreds of times, even now I'm like, timer, very worried. Do I have the time? I'm deathly paranoid about my boats randomly sinking as well. So if balloons are unoccupied for too long, they levitate and then explode. If boats are unoccupied for too long, they sink. And so I'm keeping an eye on those boats that I just built because I don't want them to sink, because that would be bad. Nice misclick, and everyone is suddenly confused as to what they want me to do as I tell them to all to jump into the water. So with this, the army gets commanded in a particular way. You may have noticed I stopped all spell channeling. Training followers requires mana, and so just to absolutely make sure I had enough time to do the attack, I was not charging any spells, so that additional mana was going towards training the followers. So there's 3 guard towers here. Underestimating these guard towers, as I have done so before, with the way boats control, is just a terrible idea. I used to try to rush past the guard towers, because once you get onto the land, it's actually out of the guard tower's reach. But sometimes the boats just really don't want to go through that small gap, and when that happens, you're kind of stuck, just being shot at by fire warriors. So I now do this, and that's just land the warriors on each of the islands, shove the fire warrior out the hut, kill him, not worry about the huts, the guard towers all that much. Pointing out that the Dakini typo, because I just remembered it at this point. So I'm trying to position the fire warriors, and as you can see, it's not going great, in a way where they can shoot the preachers. As you see, I get one of them, and that alone is enough, because now I can start landing my forces. Lending my forces. Do you have interest in a short-term loan? So I've only got a minute left, and I've been moving pretty quickly with this. So you can see how quickly this mission actually expects you to move. So at this point, with only a minute left, I'm like, we need to get the shaman out, because if we don't get the shaman out, we're in trouble. So I send a warrior into the huts to stop the fire warriors, and just focus everything on freeing the shaman. Now the timer disappears. That's actually misleading, because if you do nothing after the timer disappears, the timer is actually still going for the AI script. What happens if you fail that timer is the enemy shaman comes and casts a lightning spell into the prison, which kills you. And your shaman death in this game is an instant game over. So even if I were to lose her now, I would get game over. You don't have a reincarnation cycle. Now, if you just stand still after the prison is broken, the enemy shaman, as you can see she's starting to do, she will come over and lightning spell you anyway. So even though the timer disappears, it can be misleading. But we get to end this mission with a very satisfying cast of the volcano spell, which I don't watch this time, I'm afraid. I was watching the, if you look, the guard towers are actually sunk into the ground. That was just in case you don't kill them, because it would be the thing that then stops you passing the mission. So, I landed on this island with 10 warriors. As you can see, I've now got 22. The preaching really went in my favor. And that's mission 15, Incarcerated. So that was mission 15, Incarcerated. And by this point, I'm thinking you all figured out why I had a problem with this mission as a kid. It takes the shaman away from you, and I really don't like that, given I've done all of these missions with the shaman thus far. It took me some trying to actually figure this out, and I found that this strategy works 90% of the time, so it's probably your best bet going forward. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and share the video, and let me know what you'd like to see me do in the future. Bye for now.